Jayson, I'm going to ask you a question to start. Then I don't have as much video as I usually have, but I got a little bit of video to make a point that I think Cavs fans may have overlooked from game one. But overall, Donovan Mitchell showed up in the way you would expect Donovan to show up. He had 33 points. At the end of the third quarter, he had 33 points. The rest of the team collectively had 44. That is not a recipe for success against a team that won 68 games during the regular season. What can the Cavs do to get Donovan Mitchell some more help? Or what do the Cavs have to do to allow Donovan to get to an even higher offensive level, a la Game 6 against Orlando?
I don't think it's realistic to expect more out of him. I saw Shaq say he's got to average 35. I think that was the number Shaq threw out was 35.
Yeah,
I don't know.
He had 33 in game one, so he was right.
Yeah, and they still lost by 25. I don't know that that's realistic to expect him to average 35 points every single game in this series. He's got to get more help. I know that this sounds crazy. I said it on the show yesterday, and your boy basically said that's nuts. But I truly, especially on the road, the Cavs are missing 22 3-pointers a game in these playoffs is what they're averaging. I will take a made 2 over a missed 3 every time. I really think early in games, I'm not saying the entire game. Early in games, get to the rim. Boston doesn't have rim protectors. They're not a shot blocking team. There's going to be avenues. There's going to be lanes. Get to the basket. Take an easy 2. Try and get these guys in a little bit of a rhythm early, and then back up to the 3-point line, and then worry about 3-pointers. I'm not saying disregard the 3-point line. I'm saying attack the basket early on the road. Don't bury yourself in a hole missing threes. Missing threes leads to long rebounds, leads to transition baskets the other way, leads to wide open threes at the other end. So get into an offense early by attacking. I talked to Donovan after Game 7 of Orlando, and I said, it looked like you guys were intentionally past the 3-point line. And he said, I was. He said, I wasn't. I took an early 3, didn't like it. I wanted no part of the 3-point line early. I wanted to attack the basket, get to the rim. If you can get guys in early foul trouble, all the better. And then worry about threes. On the road, hostile environment, you're really playing with fire against this team. The Celtics are going to make threes. They're making the most threes of any team in this postseason per game. You are going to have to get hot from 3 to win, obviously. But early in games, try and catch a little bit of a rhythm first and then back up. That's all.
I think that's fair. And in Game 7, they took 16 threes. They won. In Game 1, they took 40 threes and lost. So it's not directly correlated to their 3-point attempts. I actually thought, Jayson, the Cavs got more good looks than I think people are giving them credit for. I actually think their offensive strategy and what Boston was giving them defensively was there and open. And Donovan took advantage of it. The issue was other players weren't making shots at the clip they needed to keep up with the high-powered Boston offense. I'll show you the video in 1 sec, but with that overall assessment, did you like what the Cavs tried to do offensively? They had 34 in the first quarter. They only scored 15 in the second. It's been that inconsistent valley we continue to see from them game in and game out. But did you like the strategy offensively from the Cavs in Game 1?
Yeah, I actually thought they played okay. They're capable of playing better. They have not played their best basketball at any point in this postseason. I think we all know that. They're capable of playing significantly better, and they're going to have to even compete with the series. But, Isaac Okoro was making shots last night. That was a pleasant surprise on the road in a hostile environment. So it's there. There was certainly more space on the floor last night than there was in the Orlando series. Boston isn't quite as big and long as Orlando was, particularly later in the series when Orlando just was running a whole floor of 6'10" guys out there. So the Cavs are going to have their opportunities. They're just going to have to make shots.
Yeah, and that's my big picture here. And we can say it's a make or miss league. You guys know that's the reality of the situation. Yeah. Boston made more threes. When Miami beat Boston in round 1, the one game they won, they made a franchise record 3-pointers. I have one stat from Chris Fedor that I'm going to show you guys the video to kind of show what I'm talking about in terms of getting the looks they want and actually generating some good looks. But during the last 2 playoffs, there's 6 road games under JB Bickerstaff. Their offensive rating, game by game, 102.2, 99, 93.7, 91.2, 103.3, and 84 last night.
Oof.
Not a single one of those is a good offensive rating. So despite the fact I'm going to show you that I think their game plan going into last night was pretty solid, It's not good enough. And let me just preface everything I'm going to say with that. The Cavs have to make more shots. They have to generate more open looks. But I think overall, especially early in the first half, the Cavs were getting looks that they wanted. It's a matter of, can they make those shots consistently enough to keep up with Boston? Jayson, I'm not sure if you picked up on this last night, but Boston started the game cross-matched on defense. They put Isaac Okoro, they guarded Isaac Okoro with Al Horford, and they put Jayson Tatum on Evan Mobley. The reason you do that is to take away what the Cavs want to do best, which is a big little pick and roll. In the case of Mobley and Mitchell, they would just switch it. Tatum goes on to Mitchell. Whoever was guarding Mitchell then switches on the other way around. To it evaporates that situation. You don't want the switch of Tatum on Mitchell, so you don't run the pick and roll with Evan Mobley. Instead, you run it with Isaac Okoro. And the Cavs went back to this time after time after time, putting Al Horford in these pick and roll situations. Horford was playing drop coverage and giving the Cavs a ton of space. And I'll show you a few plays here where the Cavs made him pay for giving him that much space, not just by pull-up threes, but to Jason's point earlier, by attacking the rim as well. Jayson, I'm going to play this video here and see if I can add it to the stage. Here we go. And let me restart it from the get-go. But all of these plays till the last one, it's Isaac Okoro as the screener here with Drew Holiday laid back. Al Horford's giving him 5-6 feet of room. When Donovan Mitchell gets ahead of steam, and I'm going to screenshot it here, that is way too much space for Donovan Mitchell to allow, especially with a guy with Al Horford's age and lateral quickness, to try and stay in front of. That's a shot the Cavs wanted. Here's another situation. Okoro's the screener. Horford and drop. Mitchell pops, misses the shot, but that's a great
shot.
That's a great shot. You step into it, drop coverage, they switch. This is the matchup you want. This is Donovan Mitchell attacking drop coverage. He just has to make that shot. Even Darius Garland coming off a similar play here. Another great look for the Cavs that Darius has to convert. Another screen by Okoro. They're putting him in the action to force Al Horford to be the defender here. Darius steps up. It's just a shot he has to make. Later in the first, this was a different screen with Mobley. Same principle defensively. Horford's in drop. Mitchell makes him pay. I'm going to let this thing play through one more time, Jayson. But throughout the night, using Okoro as the screener or whenever Horford was defending Mobley in early action, the Cavs made it a focal point to attack that specific matchup. And I'm going to take my chances with Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland attacking space, going downhill with the head of steam against an Al Horford at this stage of his career. The issue is Darius shot 6 of 15 from the floor. Donovan missed as well as he played. Missed a couple shots he typically makes. The next one you'll see here, this three-pointer, is a shot that you have to have Donovan Mitchell make more often than not in this series. I thought overall attacking Horford and using Okoro as the screener once they saw how Boston matched up with them defensively was a pretty good strategy that generated a lot of open looks. The Cavs just have to make all these shots to keep up with the offensive juggernaut that is the Boston Celtics. They can't miss these open looks like they did last night if they want to win more than a game in the series.
Yeah. You want to get into the Sam Merrill piece of this now or later?
Well, let's talk about Sam Merrill.
Because there was something, I just wrote a column on this and about three-point shooting and everything. And Mike was very astute in pointing out he thought that Sam played better with Donovan than he did with Darius. And the numbers back that up. And I'll get to that in a second. But before that, JB has not played the three of them together at any point, regular season or postseason, because it's defensive suicide to play Merrill with Donovan and Darius. But I wonder if this will get to the point where you try it, because what else do you have to lose? And I'm not sure that we're there yet in game 2, but for all his problems this year, Darius is the best three-point shooter on this team in the postseason, percentage-wise. Sam's number 2. But Sam fits best with Donovan, who is not shooting well from 3 at all, but taking him off the floor is non-negotiable, obviously. Mm-hmm. So it creates this conundrum. Obviously, if you're trying to get to more three-point shooting, you want Sam on the floor. Sam's going to give you that. But how do you do that when here's the numbers. With Darius on the floor, actually, I see where you're saying where I have it broken up. Give me 1 second. I'll get back. I'll pull it up to where I can read it a little bit better. But would you consider playing the three of them together at any point, or are we not there yet?
Listen, I told you before game one that I thought the Cavs, if they only went with one big, would have zero rim protection whatsoever. And last night we saw time after time Boston have the ability to get to the paint and the rim, particularly with little to no hesitation or defensive resistance from the Cavs. So if they're going to get there regardless, why not?
Yeah.
Like they gave up 120 last night with Jayson Tatum playing a subpar game.
Right.
Boston,
I just wonder if at some point you just break the glass and say, we have got to get our best 3-point shooters on the floor no matter what it takes. So let's go for it. So here's the numbers I was looking for earlier.
Okay.
With Donovan on the court, the pairing of Donovan and Sam has a net rating of plus 9.4 during the regular season and a true shooting percentage of about 57%. With Sam with Darius, the net rating is minus 2.3. So it's a 12-point difference.
Pretty big.
When it's Sam and Donovan compared to Sam and Darius. In the postseason, with Darius and Sam together, the net rating is a plus 2 and the true shooting percentage is 62%. With Darius, the net rating is minus 22 and the true shooting percentage is 41%. Now, last night, Sam and Darius together on the floor, I think, were 1 of 11. Sam didn't take a three with Darius on the floor, and I think he was 0 for 4 or 0 for 5, and all of those came with Donovan. So last night necessarily probably isn't the greatest example. Sam just wasn't shooting it well. He's an inexperienced player on the road in a hostile environment. You may have that. Like, you're going to have that. But that's not enough reason not to go back to him. I wasn't sold on Sam as an option in the Orlando series. He is 1,000% got to be an option for them in the Boston series, as you're talking about open shots and being able to step into shots and make shots. They've got to find a way to get Sam on the floor more, ideally with Donovan. The numbers back that up. And I would even go so far as to say it's going to get to the point, maybe not game 2 because it's a hostile environment. Maybe you save it for game 3 or 4, but the series may be over by that point too. But I just think you got to look at playing all 3 of them together. Just see how it looks. Yeah. And if you get absolutely torched on the defensive end, you can take a timeout and you can get out of it. But at least it's going to maximize your shooting options. It's just unfortunate Donovan's struggling as bad as he is from 3 right now. But obviously that's not an option of taking him off the floor. But you got to find ways to get Sam on the floor.
And when Sam is on the floor, especially coming out of a quarter or a timeout, you might as well try and draw up some action to get him an open look. He doesn't do you much good if you're not actively trying to get him the ball. He's not a guy that can just float around and wait for his opportunities. He's a guy you have to actually force feed the ball to.
Right.
And last point on Mitchell and why they need other guys to step up. We showed you how they got decent looks, Jason. Boston is a good defensive team as well. And they make him work so hard for certain things. And like this play, this is one of the best shots I've ever seen for a player make. This is the end of the third quarter. Look how hard Donovan has to work.
Yep.
Not just to get open, but to get a halfway decent look. Like, I can't emphasize how good of a shot that is. It's going to play a few times. But this is absurd. And they don't have enough guys. It's another shot. Still making 3 guys miss. But that one in particular, and it's going to replay in a sec. He's working so – he's going to be literally peeled out on the floor dead, exerting this much energy to get a 2-point bucket when Boston is not having to exert anywhere near that same effort on the other end of the court. He can't last. I'm seriously. He's just physically. His body will not last more than 2 or 3 games with 1 day off in between if this is the level of exertion he's putting out on every single attempt he has when the Celtics decide not to play drop. You notice Luke Cornett's in there and not Al Horford. Yeah. Played a different coverage. As soon as they switched coverages, Donovan had to work significantly harder. And that's just not sustainable. Play in, play out. And as good as he is, that's an incredible shot. You're going to miss more of those than you're going to make. Yeah. And Boston, if you watch them on the other end of the court, they are working so much less to generate better shots than that. The Cavs need other guys. Donovan Mobley, who we'll talk about in a sec, Sam Merrill, anyone, LeVert, Strus, someone else has to step up and play because this is not a sustainable offensive situation for the Cavs. That play, though, right there, Jason, literally freaking incredible. I mean, that play is absolutely incredible.
Well, if you're Boston, who do you fear offensively on the Cavs outside of Donovan? Who scares you?
No one. 0. I asked that question on the show today. How many guys do you trust with the shot clock winding down if they have the ball with 5 seconds is going to get you a good look? I think the answer is 1, Donovan, and then maybe you could talk yourself into LeVert or Darius if you're feeling extra frisky. But the reality is, no, it's 1 player.
Yeah. So. And, I mentioned this, I think to you or to someone. Yeah, I mentioned it to you on the phone today. When at the end of the game, it was game 2. I went back and looked it up. End of game 2, 2017 NBA Finals, Cavs Warriors. It's the first year the Warriors had Durant, and the Cavs played really well out there. They shot 45%. They forced 20 turnovers. They scored 113 points, and they lost the game by 19. It was 132-113. They came home in an 0-2 hole. And as I was walking back to the workroom, I sort of like bumped into David Griffin, obviously the Cavs GM at the time. We're going down the hall together. And I said, I was like, you guys have to play a perfect game to beat them. And he nodded his head. He goes, yeah. And obviously, I'm not comparing this Celtics team. That might have been the greatest team ever assembled, that Warriors team with Kevin Durant, just in sheer talent. I'm not saying that this team is that team, but the Cavs certainly are not the 2017 Cavs either. And watching that game last night, watching Boston's best player have a pretty off night, and you didn't even notice it. Like, it didn't even matter that Jayson Tatum didn't play all that well. Is incredible that Boston wins that game by 25 with their best player having a bad night. That tells you how good this team is and the level that the Cavs have to reach a level that they have not shown yet in this postseason just to win one game in this series.